This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So we're back in the studio with Valary Jennings, love of my life, who apparently no longer wants to work together, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. But looking back, we've been doing this now 10 years, and we were talking about how Valary always shows up. She's always there for her clients. She's always there for the agents. She doesn't say no. And that actually is how you got your first listing, right? Mm-hmm. You mind telling the story?
Yeah, so it was, I had recently gotten licensed at this point, and I wasn't assigned floor time that day because it was 4th of July.
What do you mean by floor time?
Yeah, floor time's old school.
Yes, sorry, this is old school. But so when, not before the internet, but before it started to be like the main way that people looked at houses, there was real estate offices you could walk into and say, hey, realtor, I need some help finding a house, right? And so I was sitting there waiting for somebody to walk in or call.
That's
right?
what floor time was. You were assigned
you were
it.
in there in the office waiting for someone to come in.
Right,
Correct.
yeah. So
or they'd call and you'd answer the phone like the business line.
So people would, unrepresented sellers and buyers would call in or walk in and say, hey, I need some help with my real estate situation. And then you're assigned to floor time, so that's your person that you get to work with. So anyways, I'm sitting there and...
What day is it?
It's 4th of July, so obviously the office was...
You were working on the 4th of July?
It wasn't officially open, but Johnny was at work at a different job.
Yeah, I was in the oil fields, right?
Yeah, in the oil
4th
fields.
of July? They didn't give you the day off?
No, oil fields 365, man.
Oh, wow.
So he's out there getting overtime, and, I'm like, okay, that's great. I'm trying to figure out what to do with my day because there's nobody to hang out with. And I'm like, well, I'll just go sit in the real estate office and get some stuff done. And lo and behold, this guy calls and he's like, hey, I'm getting a divorce. I need to sell my house ASAP. And I was like, okay, sure, I can do that. And so,
wow.
Anyways, one thing led to another. That was my very first listing.
Yep.
And
you sold it.
I did.
Got divorced?
Yeah. Yep. I achieved his real estate goal for him.
That's cool.
So,
but what was the sales price, sweetheart?
Yeah, it was a duplex. So I sold both sides. It was a duplex property, sold for $54,000.
54.
Yes.
And what year
was that?
Well, this was
16.
16, yeah, 2016.
Where was it at?
Kalinga.
And the property was, it was rough, but also, properties there.
It was really rough.
Yeah.
It was
we did a lot of work to get it through financing. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So
what's your lesson from that? What did you take away from that?
So the lesson is show up. Like a lot of people, unfortunately, it's hard when you're self-employed to get the motivation to do something, right? I was sitting in there getting some work done on 4th of July in the morning, and a lot of people would be like, no, I'm going to, go do something fun and take the day off because it's 4th of July. And not to say I didn't have fun later in the day, but I got some work done and I showed up, and that's how you get deals done.
I bet you were super excited.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was your first, that was your first sale then, huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Valary's first sale was a listing, and she's been listing homes ever since. Mm-hmm. My first sale, we're not allowed to talk about.
In Kalinga?
We're not allowed to talk about.
Your first listing, though.
What was my first listing? Do you remember? I don't know what. Oh, no, that's also really sad. So my first listing, 272 Hoover Street. Did not sell.
272 Hoover Street,
Really
Kalinga,
sad.
California?
Kalinga, California, 93210.
For those listening that don't know, we started our real estate career in Kalinga. That's why we have all these stories.
Kalinga.
And for people who've never heard of Kalinga, they have no idea where it's at. You usually smell it on your way down 99, or is it 5? 5, yeah.
So a Harris Ranch, if you've cruised past Harris Ranch, that's Kalinga.
Everyone's got to come from somewhere.
It's right there. I loved it. I was born and raised there. I have no regrets. I am.
Yeah. And they just got a major award of the best mascot. Right, best high school mascot.
Oscar the Horn Toad.
To be proud of.
Oscar the Horn Toad, best high school mascot.
Horn Toad.
Yeah.
The only thing worse than that is the Santa Cruz Slug.
That is pretty bad.
That's horrible.
Horn Toad.
At least the horn
I think Horn
toads
Toad's
look
cool.
They
I think
are
it's cool.
What's a horn toad?
It's like a lizard with horns.
Yeah, they're all spiky.
Oh, it does have a.
They look really cool.
It kind of looks like a lizard.
Yeah.
More than a toad.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, we digress. Tell us about the listing.
Oh, I didn't sell. 272 Hoover Street did not sell.
Oh, you didn't sell it?
No.
One of the few homes that Johnny has unsuccessfully.
Yeah.
How long was it on the market?
I don't know, months.
But it was probably a year.
A year?
Least.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why couldn't it sell? Is it just the area?
No, it was the price. So here's the thing: as long as our home is properly marketed, this is real estate. It is not rocket science. When price and condition align, homes sell. So if you want to get a premium on your home and it's not selling, well then let's improve the condition. So that way it aligns with the price. So maybe renovate the kitchen, do the floors, the bathrooms. Maybe make some repairs, some deferred maintenance. When condition and price align, a home sells. And this home, unfortunately, was just overpriced.
So, did you have those conversations with him and say, "Hey"?
It's been years now. I'm pretty sure I did, but I think they needed a certain number in order to make the sale happen.
Oh,
Yeah. So
interesting. So it's either reach this number or we're not selling.
yeah, we can't sell.
We can't.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that was my first listing did not go as well as Valary's first, but I did have a fantastic first, like air quotes, luxury. Right. Again, this is in Coalinga.
What is considered luxury?
Well, I mean, we thought it
was luxury.
I
So
mean,
I
it
guess
was
it's
luxury
just in the eye of the seller,
well, it's
or the broker.
the price point, the location,
in the market,
okay.
right?
And the
It
market,
was,
yeah.
It was probably the nicest home on the market in Coalinga at that time.
in Coalinga.
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah, it was a beautiful home, updated pool, waterfalls.
Wow.
Like hardwood floors, the whole 9 yards.
Updated
right?
kitchens, yeah.
Yeah, and so that was a beautiful home. That was good job, Johnny.
Beautiful home. We got it sold. It was actually my boss in the oil fields. He trusted me
Oh, nice.
to list his house.
He was retiring, moving.
He's retiring, moving out of state.
Yeah.
And, the story we've heard many times since then.
Yep.
But what did it end up selling for?
$296,000.
$296,000.
Above what you listed it for?
I can't remember, but
No,
it was
that
like.
was like the total sales price.
But I'm just saying for $296, you got a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house with
This
a
is what
pool,
year?
water feature. 2017,
Probably
17 maybe.
Maybe,
16,
yeah.
17, somewhere around there.
So Coalinga, you can get a good deal, huh?
I mean, the prices have gone up since then.
They've gone up since then. Yeah.
Sure.
But it's an incredibly affordable market.
So anyways, those are some of our firsts in Coalinga. And Valary and I moved up here in January of 2018. Didn't know anybody. We were with a different brokerage than the brokerage we are with now. And Valary hit the ground running, though. Valary is a rock star. She works hard. And you actually had a listing you had the first sale between the two of us up here.
Yeah. So got that listing in Rancho Cordova.
Do you remember roughly what month? We moved up in January.
Well, I know exactly when it was. It was like at the end of January when I got that listing.
Boom. So we're
Because
not even
my
up here for a month. Because like the first couple weeks we were
How'd
in
you get
training.
that listing? Was it just another floor time situation?
Do you want to tell the story of how we got listings?
No, we don't have to go into the details. It was a company generated lead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, the fact of the matter, I went on the appointment, got the listing, and the first open house we had was on Super Bowl Sunday. So it was, obviously at the very beginning of February.
By the way, we are not planning like Valary doesn't just work on like holidays. Like this is not the theme of the
I
show.
don't care who's playing. It was the Eagles who are playing this year
Oh, there you go.
against the New England Patriots, and the Eagles won.
Oh gosh.
So there
okay.
you go. Maybe you guys should do some open houses this year. You never know what could come
next
of it.
weekend.
But that's the thing, just
Yeah.
showing up, not saying
That's
no.
exactly, yeah. That's the moral of the story. Ultimately, is I just so happened that I was working on all these holidays, but because I showed up, had a great open house, lots
It
of
was
traffic
vacant
came
then,
through.
right?
No,
They were there still?
No, the
On
owners.
Super Bowl
It was
Sunday?
their home. It was their home, but they had stepped out for the open house.
Oh, on Super Bowl Sunday. Wow.
yeah, they went to a friend's house to have Super
Oh,
Bowl.
gotcha.
And I did the open house in the morning, closed it up by 2. Game starts at 3 usually, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so it ended up being a great, very busy open house. Sold it the first weekend on the market.
Oh,
and
good for you. That's so awesome.
But again, it's showing up. Most people would be like, I'm not doing a Super Bowl open house. Like, I'd rather go hang out with my friends and watch the game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Interesting.
But
I
that,
bet
was.
you there is a lot of traffic on Super Bowl.
yeah,
I think that would probably
I
be a
did
good
it-
day to do an open house, huh?
I'd show up. I don't care about football.
Yeah, but she's right. The game doesn't start till 3, and people are out, going to the store,
milling
picking
around,
up supplies,
picking up. Yeah, that's true.
They're free. A lot of people don't make plans on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
So they've got usually the morning or unless you're going to church or whatever.
Yeah.
But they've got people have more free time.
I wanted to go to church. I really wanted to go to church. Valerie wanted to hold the open house.
You
the
know,
heathen
you
over
were
there.
just such a great sign guy. I got so many compliments.
Were you out there with the sign? Hold on a second.
Not only with a sign, I had like one of those feather flags, those big flags.
And you were outside?
And I was outside at the major intersection.
on the corner of like Zinfandel,
That's
right
what
there
did
on
it.
that's the
what
cross
did
street.
it.
Yeah, so you're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
So that's
Val.
why I had so many people come to my open house.
They're like, that
Johnny's
guy's crazy.
waving a big old flag.
I'm
on the
waving and
corner.
I'm pointing at people and they're honking.
That's cool.
We were having fun.
See, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyways, that was your first sale. My first sale when we moved up in here was in the thriving metropolis of Galt.
Galt.
Really?
Galt. And that was a rough one. So this one backed up not only to a train track. So it was like literally there's this huge cinder block wall.
Close to public transportation.
Yeah, it had a huge like 13, 15-foot wall, a cinder block wall to help dampen the sound. But it was
the train.
But the house would shake when the train went by.
You don't hear
gosh.
anything. You just feel it.
Yeah.
And but on the other side of the train tracks was a cemetery, and so like nobody wanted this house because between the train tracks and the cemetery. So we ended up selling it, and so sellers, if you're listening to the show, or buyers, if you're listening to the show, or agents, if something is considered part of the home, you're not allowed to take it when the house sells.
Oh, you've told me this story, right?
Right, and it's about the fountain.
Yeah.
And so what the sellers did was they were pissed off about something, so they took the fountain, sold it to the next door neighbor. The new buyers come in, they're like, "Where's the fountain?" They look over to the neighbor's yard, and you can see the fountain poking out.
There it is.
And there's their fountain in the neighbor's yard. But that was that was my first sale in Galt.
And then you got it back, though, right?
No.
Wait, were you the seller's rep?
I
or
represented
the buyer's
I represented the seller. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the seller sold the fountain to the neighbors?
Yeah.
Well, did you guys you had to do something?
So this is a really good point. Really good point.
Yeah.
What a real estate agent's technical job is to facilitate the transaction. Okay? That is it. Transaction closes, we are not a part of this. Like, we are not legally allowed to negotiate between the buyers and sellers. Our license does not allow us to do that. And so if the buyer and seller now want to figure this fountain situation out, it's up to them to figure it out.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
What
so
if
we are
there's
not
an issue then?
It's up to the buyer and seller to then figure it out. We are not
Whether
allowed.
or not they have to go to attorneys.
So typically,
you don't get involved in that.
Typically, it goes to mediation arbitration first. And then if they can't come to an agreement, then, it escalates. And then if it escalates, typically the person that's mad ropes everybody in. So I've never been sued, but I know people who have. And so like, let's take a different example. Let's say a house sold and the seller didn't disclose something.
Yeah, this is a common one, the non-disclosure. So sellers that are listening, disclose everything.
Disclose. So like the seller didn't disclose that every winter the garage was prone to flooding. Maybe not every winter it would flood, but most winters it would flood because of negative grading and just how the water would flow off of the property and typically flow into the garage. The seller didn't disclose. The agent didn't know. The agent doesn't live there. Right.
Sure.
The inspection, it wasn't flooded when the inspection company came by, so they don't know that it's flooded. The buyer's agent doesn't know because, again, they don't live there. It's up to the seller to disclose that. And the seller didn't disclose that. And the buyer moves in. All of a sudden, she's getting all these flooding issues. First winter, flooding issues. Why is this not disclosed? She probably had somebody come out and go, "Hey, how do you fix it?" They're like, "Oh gosh, this is a real problem. This isn't new. This is based off the grading. This is based off of the drainage."
Or the neighbor, they're talking to the neighbor, and the neighbor's like, "Oh yeah, it happens to all of our garages every winter."
Yeah, that's the only way.
The seller of this house knew.
They could deny it. Well, that's never happened to us before.
Well, then they realized, oh my gosh, in looking at the photos, you can go back sometimes and see, oh my gosh, there was watermarks pre-existing in the garage in the photos. We just didn't catch it. And so the seller didn't disclose, but now the listing agent is roped into a lawsuit. The buyer's agent is roped into a lawsuit. The home inspection is roped into a lawsuit. The only person that did anything illegal is the seller, but everybody else is now a part of this transaction.
Because that's what the attorneys will do. So they'll just like, let's get everybody involved.
Exactly.
Come on in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, so if you are, so as far as that fountain situation goes, they must have figured it out because, I didn't get roped into anything.
Right, unless lawyers get involved and you're subpoenaed or something like that.
Well, and the fountain probably wasn't worth a ton of money, and it's like legal fees versus buying a new fountain.
Right.
Which one's more expensive?
Yeah. Well,
at that point?
I had a family, some friends of ours, they purchased a new home and the seller said they would leave the washer and dryer. That was part of the agreement.
Yeah. And
then they go to look at the house and the sellers are moving out and they're hauling the washer and dryer out. And they're like, no, those washers and dryers are ours. And I think it was the fridge too. And the seller said, no, we're not leaving that. And so it had to go through some different processes. And eventually the seller had to buy new appliances.
Yeah. Well, that's in the contract.
Well, yeah. And that's, So again, that you can get involved, especially if it's like a final walkthrough situation where it's like, it hasn't closed escrow yet. And the buyers are like, as a listing agent, I would be like, hey guys, you need to bring those back. Those are part of the contract. You can't just take them. That's something you have to leave for the buyers, right? And they, if they don't, then that's on them and they're the ones legally responsible for not leaving them.
That's a really good point. When we come back, this is something that Valary is very passionate about, and that is including personal property with a real estate transaction. Back after this.
So one of our listeners, a nice couple in the Folsom area, they wanted to sell their home and move out of state. They were retiring. But in order to retire, to get the property that they had dreamed of, they needed a certain price for their home in Folsom. Who did they reach out to? Of course, the best. That's Johnny Jennings and his entire team at Made for More Realty. They were able to get this couple a great offer on their home, actually multiple offers above what they even listed it for, and in a record time for that neighborhood. And that's what happens when you work with not just Johnny Jennings, but the entire team, Valary and everyone at Made for More Realty. Hey, if you're curious, what do other folks have to say about Johnny Jennings and the team at Made for More Realty? Go on Google. Check them out. They've got almost 1,000 five-star Google reviews. You'll find out that they were voted #1 team in Roseville for the past 3 years. You'll find out that it's proven they sell homes 27% faster than everyone else and for more money than everyone else in your neighborhood. So if you're curious, what kind of offers can I get in my home? In fact, if you're curious how you can get at least 3 guaranteed cash offers on your home in as-is condition, no need to do costly home repairs, no need to do stagings or showings or get your home organized and clean, then finally do something now. Don't wait. It's time. Reach out to Johnny Jennings and the Tom Daves team at Made for More Realty, or you can go to madeformoreliving.com, madeformoreliving.com, and do what so many of our listeners have done and trust the selling of their home to Johnny Jennings and his team at Made for More Realty. Or if you're looking to buy a home, they can help you with that as well. They're going to find you a great deal. Again, just Google Johnny Jennings and Made for More Realty or madeformoreliving.com.